I am Johnny Massacre and welcome to my world. May your stay here be interesting. Tonight, Trump is about to end the Ukraine war. Who is with me? Give me a hell yeah! So Trump brought Zelensky and all the world leaders of Europe to the White House to force through a peace agreement between Ukraine and Russia. Here's the timeline. So you might have seen Trump went to Alaska to meet Putin. He did that on Friday the 15th of August. And the man basically worked for 20 hours and he was up in time for golf the next day. And then Trump called all the world leaders to a White House summit, including Zelensky. And that occurred yesterday on Monday the 18th of August. So the meeting only lasted for 90 minutes. And Trump paused the meeting halfway through, apparently, to call Putin one-on-one with no one else there. Can you imagine how badass that must have looked? So, after the meeting ended, it seems to be the case that Putin and Zelensky and Trump are now agreeing to a trilateral meeting. So they're going to have a final summit and finally bring an end to the Russia-Ukraine war. I really think this is happening, and I'm going to show you why. I'm going to show you some of the videos and some of the footage of everything involved in this timeline. But Trump's body language and the way he's acting and the way everyone's acting and all the signs point towards the stars aligning. This really, really seems like it's actually happening. You can sense the vibe shift. So here is the moment I feel you can kind of tell that the vibe is shifting and this is actually going to happen. So this is when Zelensky was at the White House and he's sitting with Trump and Trump's kind of joking around regarding Zelensky cancelling elections. And Trump kind of says, oh, I want to run in 2028, making a joke there. But regardless of what's being said, just look at Trump's body language here. This is going to tell you a hell of a lot. Check this out.
Legal elections.
So you say during the war you can't have elections. So let me just say 3.5 years from now. So you mean if we happen to be in a war with somebody, no more elections? Oh, that's good. I wonder what the fake.
You like this idea?
Look at that. That face. I don't see that face very often. That face is the face of winning. That's a calm face. That's a face that tells me he knows it's in the bag. He absolutely knows it's in the bag. Otherwise, he'd be much more stern like he was in the last meeting. I can just tell. I can just tell. See that body language there? Trump making a joke about running in 2028 because Zelensky basically cancelled elections during a war, which is freaking awesome on its own. But that body language right there.
You like this idea? No.
There. Look at that. You cannot tell me that is the face of someone who has any doubt in his mind about this war ending. You simply can't. This guy's all about legacy. He's famous as a peace president. He prides himself on ending wars. He's ended a shit ton already. That face right there tells you everything you need to know, in my personal opinion. So I think what happened here was he just paid Zelensky. I think this is how this is why this war is ending. Trump has agreed to provide protections to Ukraine, and if he does that, he's going to force Ukraine to agree to a $100 billion arms deal. That means the gravy train keeps going to Zelensky. He can use the Ukrainian taxpayer money to buy $100 billion worth of American military equipment. And so he can essentially launder that money, keep it going. Trump's also going to provide some guarantees to Europe. The military industrial complex can continue to launder the money over there. And it looks like a massive win for Trump because he's essentially ended the war. And it's going to look like a massive win for Putin as well, because he's probably going to get territory. They're going to have to concede the Donbass. And leading up to this, there was a lot of news about how Zelensky would refuse to concede territory. But he's here, and he knows the conditions, which is conceding territory. So, dude, massive, massive vibe shift. All of the European leaders were there, and the fucking optics of that were just off the chain. You've got mostly woke Western leaders like Keir Starmer and Macron and anchorways like that. And then the only kind of cool one you have is Meloni, the PM of Italy. And they all look beta. Their body language is hands behind the back or kind of looking a little bit shy. Trump, Big Daddy Trump in the middle, looking like an absolute boss, bringing them together, being as transparent as possible. They all came for the photo op. Trump is sunning all these progressive Western leaders. And it looks like he's going to bring an end to the war. This really looks like it's happening. This would just be a freaking huge victory for the Trumpster. So we're going to check out the timeline of events, show you some video footage of Trump meeting with Zelensky and various European world leaders in what seems to be the ending of the Russia-Ukraine war. But before we do that, I would like to ask you to donate if you can to help keep the stream running. Streamlabs.com/Johnny Massacre, Patreon.com/Johnny Massacre, or PayPal.me/give me a hell yeah. If you donate, it enables me to make more of these episodes for you. So please consider doing that. So let's check out the timeline of the Trumpster ending the Ukraine-Russia war. So everyone knew this was going to happen yesterday. Everyone was talking about it. Europeans, leaders and prime ministers were invited to a summit at the White House. And I love the transparency of the Trump administration. Rapid Response 47 posted out the schedule for that day, 12 p.m. European leaders arrive at the White House. 1 p.m. President greets the president of Ukraine. 1:15. The president participates in a bilateral meeting with the president of Ukraine. 2:15. President greets European leaders, and so on and so on. And of course, it started with a suit. So everyone was saying Zelensky's not going to wear a suit. There was all this fake news that the bastard turned up in a t-shirt. Even I fell for it. And apparently, according to Axios, the White House asked if Zelensky will wear a suit to meet the Trumpster, because that's all where it went wrong. First impressions are everything when they had that argument last time they met. So there was this amazing exchange between Zelensky and Trump. The atmosphere is different. They've obviously agreed something behind the scenes and they both feel confident about what's coming. Check out this exchange between the Trumpster and Zelensky when they're talking about him wearing a suit. I freaking love this. I love this so hard. Check this out.
President Zelensky, you look fabulous in that suit.
I said the same thing.
Yeah, you look good.
I said the same thing.
Yeah, looks good.
I said to the one that attacked you last time. See, now he's
I remember that.
Yeah, I apologize to you. You look wonderful. No, my first question for you, President Zelensky.
In the same suit. You see, I changed, you are not.
Maybe yours is much better. President
Bro,
Zelensky.
listen. I don't need to tell you that this war is ending. Look at the body language of these two people. Zelensky, something's been agreed behind the scenes. Look how happy Trump is. He's laughing. You don't laugh if there's tons of pressure on unless you're nervous, and he's clearly not nervous at all. I love this exchange where the reporter last time who asked Zelensky, why the hell aren't you wearing a suit, which contributed to this fiery exchange in the White House, they met again, and Trump said, that's the guy who cussed you last time. And then they kind of made up, they made friends. And then Zelensky's actually kind of funny. He said, oh, but you're wearing the same suit to the reporter. So I just love that exchange. But look at when Zelensky says you're wearing the same suit to the reporter, look at how Trump laughs. Is this the laugh of a man who isn't confident that the war is ending?
I said to the one that attacked you last time. See, now he's
I remember
He said that's the reporter that attacked you last time. And he's laughing, look.
I apologize to you. You look wonderful. No, my first question for you, President Zelensky.
In the same suit.
You can see the vibe shift happening. This is actually happening. You can tell it's happening. So all eyes were on the White House. I mean, every single person in the world was watching this news. All the major European countries' leaders were there. All eyes are on Big Daddy Trump. This is what he lives for. This is what you voted him in for. He thrives on this stuff. So multiple outlets reported that President Trump interrupted his meeting to call Vladimir Putin halfway through, which is just crazy, if true. And the meeting ended after an hour and 40 minutes. How is that for efficiency? So according to Election Wizard, NATO secretary publicly has credited President Trump for breaking the deadlock between Russia and Ukraine. So if the communist UN are chiming in on this, then you know something is happening. You absolutely know something's happening. President Trump confirmed seemingly that he made this phone call to Putin in this video.
We just spoke to, I was just telling the president, I just spoke to President Putin indirectly, and we're going to have a phone call right after these meetings today.
Okay, so now that was before the phone call.
And we may or may
And I
not.
think he actually did that before the meeting ended. That tells you a lot, if that's true, about how successful this is looking.
Have a trilat. If we don't have a trilat, then the fighting continues. And if we do, we have a good chance. I think if we have a trilat, there's a good chance of maybe ending it. But
So he's talking about a trilat, which is a meeting between three people, a summit, if you will. Polymarket, who correctly predicted the result of the 2024 election, said, breaking, Trump has arranged a meeting between Zelensky and Putin. That's the trilat. Polymarket says there's a 39% chance of a ceasefire this year, and that's doubled in chance from 20% before this meeting. Resist the Mainstream on X says Zelensky says he's ready for a trilateral meeting with Trump. Zelensky is ready for it. Listen to what he says here. Zelensky is actually playing ball.
President Zelensky, are you prepared to keep sending Ukrainian troops to their deaths for another couple years, or are you going to agree to redraw the maps?
Thank you for your question. So, first of all, we live under each day attacks. That today have been a lot of attacks and a lot of wounded people, and the child was dead, small one year and a half. So we need to stop this war, to stop Russia, and we need.
Bro, change your tune. Before he's kind of giving signs that he wants to keep going, bruv. Now he's saying we're going to stop it. Dude, you can tell this is about to end.
Support American and European partners, and we will do our best for this. So, and I think we show that we are strong people, and we supported the idea of the United States, personally of President Trump, to stop this war.
Dude, it's happening.
Make a diplomatic way of finishing this war, and we are ready for trilateral as President.
He said it there. We're ready for trilateral. That means Zelensky, president of Ukraine, is going to meet with President Trump and Putin.
This is a good signal about trilateral. I think.
And look, he even wore a suit. He couldn't bring himself to wear a tie. He looks like he's turning up to a funeral, but at least he made a slight effort. Can you see? The stars are actually aligning here. So, according to Nick Sauter on X, he says breaking, the trilateral Trump, Putin and Zelensky meeting will happen within 2 weeks. Sources with the German Chancellor tell Fox. Trump has pedaled down on getting this peace deal done ASAP. And Zelensky cancelled his interview with Fox News on that night and headed back home. And that is an even greater sign, because remember last time when he went to the White House and relations broke down in that argument between Zelensky, Trump and JD Vance, he went on to do an interview, I think it was with Fox News, and he kind of talked more shit and opened his mouth. This time, everyone had the brief. It's just like, shut the fuck up, stick to the fucking script, and let's get this shit over. Let's just end it. Don't go on Fox News. Don't run your mouth. Don't try to fuck things up. Big Daddy Trump has smoothed it out. He's got everyone in the same room. It's fucking happening. Don't flap your mouth, you bastard. Go the fuck home, and then we'll have a trilateral. You can see shit is happening here. So, Keir Starmer, Prime Minister of Britain, hate is a strong word, but I do hate this guy. I have to be honest. He credited Trump. He said, so far, nobody's been able to bring it to this point. Crediting Trump for bringing everyone to the negotiating table. Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni said to President Trump, something has changed thanks to you. Everyone giving him credit. So the Trumpster summed up the meeting on a Truth Social post. He said, I had a very good meeting with distinguished guests. President Volodymyr Zelensky of Ukraine, President Emmanuel Macron of France, President Alexander Stubb of Finland, Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni of Italy, Prime Minister Keir Starmer of the United Kingdom, Chancellor of the Federal Republic of Germany, Friedrich Merz, President of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, and Secretary General of NATO, Mark Rutte, in the White House, which ended in a further meeting in the Oval Office. During the meeting, we discussed security guarantees for Ukraine, which guarantees would be provided by the various European countries with a coordination with the United States of America. Everyone is very happy about the possibility of peace for Russia-Ukraine. At the conclusion of the meetings, I called President Putin and began the arrangements for a meeting at a location to be determined between Putin and Zelensky. After that meeting takes place, we will have a trilat, which would be the two presidents plus myself, Again, this was a very good early step for a war that has been going on for almost 4 years. Thank you for attention to this matter. And Trump had a lot of criticism for opening dialogue with Putin. A lot of people said you can't negotiate with a dictator, tacitly saying that you should just keep this war going forever and millions of people should die. But Trump treated Putin with respect, and therefore Putin, feeling listened to, is actually responding, and now a lot of lives could be saved. So this is wonderful news all round. I'm really, really happy to see this. The White House posted on X, President of Peace, and said, we're going to work with Ukraine, we're going to work with everybody, and we're going to make sure that if there's peace, that peace is going to stay long term. We have this amazing image of Trump with all the European world leaders standing in a line. Look at this optic. I mean, Trump has a knack for just amazing photos, doesn't he? How many unbelievable photos has this man been a part of in the last couple of years, let alone over his lifetime? This is a crazy, crazy photo. I don't think I've ever seen anything like this. He got all the European leaders together, and he essentially summed them all. This is his will. They wanted the war to continue. Always talking belligerent rhetoric, always talking about more money, more funding. And this is one of the reasons I wanted the Trumpster to get into power, because it has a knock-on effect on all these other countries. The UK is in a death spiral economically and culturally. And this guy Starmer, even though he said that the UK is out of money, he keeps on just giving tens of billions of pounds to Ukraine. So thank you, Trump, for taking the steps to end this war. Just an amazing optic there in that photo. John Roberts on X says, I covered the White House for more than a decade and never witnessed a meeting like this. Absolutely incredible stuff. President Trump even pointed out his fight, fight, fight. Huge painting on the White House wall. Photo to Zelensky. Check this out, bruv. Pointed out there.
That was not a great day.
He said that's not a great day. Trump just loves people and he loves getting shit done. If there's one dude who just won't hide from anything and will just show up, and it doesn't matter how many people are involved, doesn't matter how complicated it is, it doesn't matter how dangerous it is, that guy's just going to be there in a suit waiting to get shit done. It is this guy. What an absolute hero. You've got to love the Trumpster. And he's just a great diplomat. You can see him here when he was having a meeting with Zelensky saying, I just love Ukrainian people, I love the Russian people, I love them all. I want to get the war stopped.
Well, I know Ukrainian people. I've known many over the years. They're great people. They're smart. They're energetic. They love their country. I mean, they love their country, and we want to get this war ended. That's all I can do. I love the Ukrainian people, but I love all people. I love the Russian people. I love them all. I want to get the war stopped. Well, I know Ukrainian
He
people.
clearly just wants peace. All of his detractors want the war to go on. President Putin came out and thanked Donald Trump and says relations between Russia and the US are starting to improve. And this is really where the magic happens. So Insider Paper says Ukraine will promise to buy 100 billion of American weapons financed by Europe as part of a deal to obtain US guarantees for its security after a peace settlement with Russia. Essentially, everyone can just keep making money. Everyone can keep using your tax money to buy stuff, and they can launder it and they can trouser some of it. So as long as the money's still going to be flowing, it's all good. It's all good. Again, the Kobesi letter says Ukraine will offer President Trump a 100 billion weapons deal in exchange for a security guarantee. The deal would include Ukraine promising to buy 100 billion worth of American weapons and would be financed by Europe. So everyone's going to keep making money. That's why this is happening. It's all come down to money, in my opinion. Zelensky's still going to get loads of money. Europe's going to get money. They all, like, Europe will use the tax money to create the weapons, and then Zelensky will use the tax money to buy the weapons. And then America will use the tax money to create the weapons. So lots and lots of money is going to be taken from the people, and I think that's why they all agreed to end the war. That's my personal opinion, and I think that's how Trump got it done. And Trump says he's settled 6 wars in 6 months, and then he's fighting back against the mainstream media who are claiming that Trump doesn't know what he's doing, but obviously he does. The White House posting out a picture of the Trumpster and Zelensky. What a difference a couple of months makes. Now they're laughing, walking side by side, looking confident. Do you remember before they had that argument? Now they have their arms around one another's shoulders. And Trump is just a unicorn monster. He sunned a lot of the European leaders. He talked about Mertz's tan and things like that. Mertz said, I can't imagine in the next meeting with Russia. He said he couldn't imagine the next meeting with Russia taking place without a ceasefire. And Trump said, in the 6 years that I have settled a bunch of wars, I haven't had a ceasefire. So Trump's sunning all these fools. Without Trump, this war would never get finished because all these bureaucrats don't know what they're doing. It's just an amazing optic. All these bureaucrats brought into the White House, sunned by this builder from New York who was on, what was it, Celebrity Apprentice? I just can't get enough of this. I cannot get enough of this. Seriously. Just brilliant stuff. And Donald Trump's approval rating has surged after the Putin summit. Yes, it is true. After the summit in Alaska, his approval rating has reached 54%, and it's going to be even more after that summit at the White House. And I just think this was about money the whole time. The Democrats are angry this morning. They thought the biggest problem they had when they woke up was President Trump brokering a peace deal between Russia and Ukraine. But then Donald Trump announced he is destroying their vote fraud scheme using mail-in ballots and machines. So, mate, you thought your day couldn't get any better? Well, it can, bruv. I'm here to bring you the good news. The Trumpster is signing an executive order to end mail-in ballots and voting machines. Into my veins with this one. So at the summit with Zelensky, he took time to even mention it. Check it out, bruv.
So between paper ballots, very, very important, paper ballots, and I think maybe even more important, the mail-in voting. We're going to end mail-in voting. It's a fraud. If you have mail-in vote, even Jimmy Carter with this commission, they set it up. He said the one thing about mail-in voting, you will never have an honest election if you have mail-in. And it's time that the Republicans get tough and stop it. Because the Democrats want it. It's the only way they can get elected. Because with men and women's sports and with transgender for everybody and open borders and all of the horrible things, and now the new thing is they love crime. They're fighting me on the fact that I've made Washington, D.C. safe. We're not going to get mugged, beaten up, or killed.
And that's an interesting side note. So who'd have thought, man, if you put loads of police somewhere, the crime will disappear. And then you don't need to funnel hundreds of billions into social programs that just exacerbate the problem. Man, the Trumpster is a beast. The Democrats can't admit that he cleaned up DC, because if they do, then it's going to make their crime-ridden it-hole-shay cities look like their own faults. It turns out you can just fix them by putting police there.
Like all the people you've been watching get so badly hurt. I'm glad. I hate to take your time with this,
Bro,
but
if the government wants to get something done, it can get it done. Whether it's stopping a war or whether it's preventing crime, they can get it done. The Trumpster gets it done.
I'm glad you asked me that question. We're going to stop mail-in ballots because it's corrupt.
Into my veins with that one. So the New York Post runs with that headline saying Trump says he'll sign order banning mail-in ballots voting machines ahead of 2026 midterms, just in time, baby. So he made a post about this. He said, I'm going to lead a movement to get rid of mail-in ballots. And also, while we're at it, highly inaccurate, very expensive, and seriously controversial voting machines, which cost 10 times more than accurate and sophisticated watermark paper, which is faster and leaves no doubt at the end of the evening as to who won and who lost the election. We are now the only country in the world that uses mail-in voting. All others gave it up because of the massive voter fraud encountered. We will begin this effort, which will be strongly opposed by the Democrats because they cheat at levels never seen before, by signing an executive order to help bring honesty to the 2026 midterm elections. Remember, the states are merely an agent for the federal government in counting and tabulating the votes. They must do what the federal government, as represented by the President of the United States, tells them for the good of our country to do. With their horrible radical left policies, open borders, men playing in women's sports, transgender and woke for everyone, and so much more, Democrats are virtually unelectable without using this completely disproven mail-in scam. Elections can never be honest with mail-in ballots. And everyone, in particular the Democrats, knows this. I and the Republican Party will fight like hell to bring honesty and integrity back to our elections. The mail-in ballot hoax using voting machines that are a complete and total disaster must end now. Remember, without fair and honest elections and strong and powerful borders, you don't even have a semblance of a country. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Donald J. Trump, President of the United States of America. What other countries are talking like that? Man, Englishmen must be looking at America green with envy. So you want to see why Donald Trump wants to get rid of mail-in ballots? Well, in 2020, that's when people started using mail-in ballots. It became mainstream, using COVID as a pretext. So if you look at the Democrat election, the presidential elections, over the last 12 years, there is a consistent amount of voting by Democrats. It's around 65 million every single year. But in 2020, suddenly it shot up by about nearly 20 million votes. And then in 2024, those 20 million voters just suddenly disappeared in an even more critical election. Gee, I wonder what happened. But there's nothing to see there. If you were an auditor, you'd look at that and go, wow, nothing to see there at all. Just keep on going. So that's why the Trumpster wants to get rid of mail-in ballots. Every American should support this. Taiwan just held their election, and they require a photo ID and use paper ballots. They hand count the votes of each station one by one in public view. There are no mail-in ballots in Taiwan, and it's all done in 6 hours. Meanwhile, Arizona just announced it could take 10 to 13 days to tabulate all the votes. It's always Democrat cities that do this. Democrats want to cheat. How do I know that? Because the census, which is a measurement of how many of a state's population, dictates how many House seats you get in Congress, and that dictates how many laws you can pass and how much power you have in America. And illegals count towards the census. So California openly admit that they just let illegals in and they support illegals. Those people will get them more House seats. The Democrats would just want to cheat at every opportunity. So I'm totally for this. If Trump can codify that, man, I mean, that's just dreamland, bruv. That is dreamland. That's one of the first things I wanted to see when the Trumpster got in. So I'm really, really happy to see that he's actually pushing forward with an executive order to ban mail-in ballots. That's what got my account banned, was criticizing mail-in ballots in 2020. That's what got this account like 10,000 followers, was talking about the sketchy electronic voting machines. And my account got banned for talking about that, along with the Trumpster. And here we are all these years later, and now he's signing an executive order to end that. You gotta love it. You love to see it. The Trumpster. What an absolute beast. So I'd like to read out a comment by Purp and Yellow. He sent me this on Discord regarding the news today with Ukraine and Russia. So Purp said, saw you're going to go over the Ukraine-Russia stuff today. Between the Putin stuff on Friday and all the gold today, that should be a good one. It's wild to see the people on the left in the media actively rooting for Putin against Trump, just hoping he loses, writing articles about how he's getting bent over, when in reality he's flying stealth fucking bombers over Putin's head and actually getting some form of diplomacy between both sides started, unlike the last dickhead. Can you imagine Biden hosting a summit with all those leaders? He wouldn't physically be able to get through it. And his handlers wouldn't have wanted him to get through it. Anyways, that's why they chose the guy. He can just disappear into the background and they can continue running things from behind the scenes. So America is so lucky to have someone like Trump. You look at him up there, just relentlessly attacked by the globalist leftist media, funded often by the taxpayer, state propaganda, attacking him day in, day out. He just ignores it all, gets on with it. And look at the results. I mean, the man he's liquidated DEI root and branch in all of government, in all the places where government funding is landing. He's doing his bit to remove it from universities by removing their funding. And he's just doing what he said he was going to do. He's stopped all the crossings at the border. 0 months on end now. It's just amazing stuff. And he's stopping wars. They're going to keep on shrieking. They want the war to continue. But it's going to be hard for the wokesters. It's going to be a hard week. It's going to be a hard month. It's going to be a hard year when he stops this war, because all of the woke leftist leaders were there bending the knee to Big Daddy Trump. They support it as well. So Trump's just, he's got everyone checkmated. America holds all the chips, and he's using their financial leverage to ram through his policies for our benefit. So thank you, the Trumpster. You're not letting me down. Do appreciate you. All right, everyone. Hope you enjoyed that. We're going to jump on over to a cheeky live stream. Let me redirect you now. When the stream ends, you'll be sent to the cheeky live stream, and we will continue the fun over there. Episode 162. See you later, everyone. Cheers, yeah? Thank you. Thank you.